All right, let's dive deep into one of the all-time great novels, Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Today we're going to unpack a character who is, I think, one of the most incredible figures in all of literature, Sonya Marmeladova. And look, she's not just some side character. She is the absolute spiritual heart of this entire story.
And we have to start right here with this one question. Seriously, because for Sonya, this isn't just a throwaway line. It's everything. It is the key that unlocks her entire character. It's not some philosophical question she's debating. It's existential. It's the very bedrock of how she survives things that would break almost anyone else.
So let's get into the first layer of who she is. And it's built on this just massive paradox. How can the person who is the most condemned by society also be the most spiritually pure? It almost doesn't make sense.
I mean, let's just be real about her situation for a second. Sonya is only 18 years old, and she is forced into prostitution. Why? To feed her family, her dying stepmother, and her starving little half-siblings. So on the outside and the eyes of the world back then, she is the ultimate fallen woman, the worst of the worst. But Dostoevsky just flips that whole idea on its head. He shows us that inwardly, she is the most pure, the most faithful soul in the entire book. And that contrast, right there, is what makes her so powerful. And when you put her next to Raskolnikov, the novel's protagonist, wow, it just frames the whole conflict perfectly. You've got Sonya over here, this quiet, humble person full of faith and inner purity, even with her outward sin. And then you've got Raskolnikov, this storm of intellectual arrogance and rebellion, just eaten alive by his inner guilt. They are perfect foils, two sides of the same human coin.
So the big question is, how does she do it? How does she live this life without being completely and utterly destroyed by it? Well, that brings us to her psychology, which is just, it's incredible. And what you find is that it's not weakness at all. It's this profound, almost unbelievable kind of strength. Her resilience is just off the charts. And it comes from this really unique mix of traits. She's got this absolute humility, but, and this is key, it never turns into self-hatred or self-destruction. She accepts what she has to do, but she refuses to hate herself or anyone else for it. You know, her mind is ruled by this boundless compassion and a really simple, almost childlike faith. It's the total opposite of Raskolnikov, who's just tortured by his own endless, spiraling thoughts. And here's something that just blows my mind. What Dostoevsky was writing about in the 1800s, modern psychology now has a name for it: post-traumatic growth. The idea that people don't just survive trauma, they can actually forge a deeper meaning and strength because of it, in the crucible of that pain. That's Sonya. She finds this bizarre kind of freedom through her suffering. Okay, so Dostoevsky is a genius, and he doesn't just tell us that Sonya is a spiritual person, he shows us. He uses these really simple, concrete objects to turn her into what you could almost call a walking icon. There are three big symbols that are always with her. First, there's her yellow ticket. That was her state-issued license to be a prostitute, a brutal symbol of society's total hypocrisy. Then you have this single burning candle in her room when Raskolnikov confesses his crime. It's this perfect picture of the light of conscience. It might be faint, but it can't be put out. And finally, there's this simple little wooden cross she gives him. It's not just a piece of wood. It's a symbolic act, her handing him the very idea of redemptive suffering. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all feels very literary, very 19th century Russia. But her character type, her archetype, is so incredibly relevant. In fact, I'm willing to bet you've met a version of Sonya in your own life. I mean, think about it. That pattern of choosing forgiveness over holding a grudge, of absorbing the pain of the people around you, we see it all the time. Think about the parent who sacrifices everything for their kids, or that friend who will just listen to your problems for hours without any judgment. It's that quiet, everyday heroism of just staying kind in a world that can be really, really cruel. But this is where it gets really complicated, right? Sonya's sacrifice feels so noble, but at the same time, it's literally paying for her father's drinking problem. It's enabling his addiction. So it really makes you ask, where is that line? At what point does this amazing self-sacrifice stop being heroic and start enabling the very problem it's trying to fix? That is a tough moral tightrope to walk. And that very complexity, that tricky moral question, brings us right to the core of what Sonya really means in this book. It's what Dostoevsky is proposing as a kind of quiet, spiritual revolution. So here it is, the final showdown of ideas. Raskolnikov tries to become a Superman, to achieve some kind of wholeness through his intellect, through his big ideas and theories, and he fails, spectacularly. But Sonya, she shows us that real wholeness, real redemption, isn't found on that path at all. It's found on a totally different one, the path of humble, compassionate, suffering love.
And that leaves me with one final question for you. In our world today, a world that is still so obsessed with status, with being the smartest person in the room, with power, is this idea, the idea that true strength is actually found in humility and compassionate love, is that maybe the most revolutionary and the most challenging idea of all?